All right, so with Diablo 4 Season 2 coming out, I want to see, there's a lot of negativity still. This one's from Hog, so go check him out on YouTube. But the title of the video is Diablo 4 is a scam. Let's see what he's on about.
So after about a month of being set free from captivity of the horrible hold that Lilith had on me, and my Stockholm Syndrome is finally starting to clear up, which y'all need to come see me if you need the antidote for Stockholm Syndrome. It's called...
Okay, so right off the bat, we are already just like deep in the red of anger. Like, this game gave him Stockholm Syndrome. This game had a hook on him. All right, let's see how, I'm sure the rest of the video is going to be very positive and happy.
Called PoE. Listen, Stockholm Syndrome is when the abductee sympathizes with the abductor. So if somebody kidnaps your ass, you start feeling bad for him or sympathizing with him, right?
Right, sure.
But that's what we've all got with Blizzard right now in Diablo 4. This ain't Diablo.
Old
Stop
standard.
calling it Diablo. There's no Diablo in this game whatsoever. This is Lilith. We were scammed. We were catfished. Do y'all understand?
I mean, true. There is Diablo, but there isn't. True.
Catfished. How about y'all? You got Hog? Thanks for stopping by. Catfished or scammed? I like scammed. Y'all might like catfished a little better, but the definition of scam is when you're defrauded for money or deceived for money.
Okay, so here's what he's positing. That Diablo 4 frauded you for your money. It was a dishonest scheme to swindle you for your cash. Let's see.
So I started watching this kind of series I found on this channel called Catfished. Highly recommend y'all watch it. It's pretty badass. But there's this woman on there, and she looks like real life Peggy Hill. And she honestly thinks that Dacker McCabery, I believe, or Dacker Montgomery, whatever the hell his name, Billy from Stranger Things, how about that, wants to be with her boyfriend and girlfriend. He actually convinces her to leave her husband and send him money. Why would you need to send a movie star money? Well, as silly as that sounds to us, I feel like we kind of got swept up in the same thing. I feel like we got scammed, catfished. If the game was free, we wouldn't have been scammed, but the game wasn't free. Well, it started off with one big lie from...
So far, we don't have anything of substance, I'll be honest. I definitely agree that there was a misrepresentation for the game itself and what we could have gotten, especially since this is a company that they're working on their 4th major installment of the same game in the same genre. But so far, it's just been, hey, we've been scammed. I gave them money and I didn't want to.
Joe Shelley talking about the closed beta back in November. Y'all remember that? I did a video covering it a few months ago right after it dropped. I was mad as hell. But they lied. Let's hear what I had to say.
Now, as Diablo 4 marches towards its launch next year, we're excited to announce that we'll soon be entering a new testing phase, an endgame closed beta focused on everything that happens after you finish the Epic campaign.
Since it's a closed beta, we'll be directly inviting a large number of people using gameplay data to find players who have recently spent significant time in Diablo endgame experiences.
So the lie comes in when they said people with considerable in-game time. They sent those invites out to anybody that had a damn Blizzard account, not just people that spent considerable time in the end game.
He's right, though. It is very weird to qualify where those keys are going to that degree. And this is kind of one of my biggest critiques for the Diablo 4 team since launch, is it feels like, I don't know, it feels like they're just showing their excitement in a very genuine way, but in a way that I feel is like a little too naive. It's almost like, hey, like, we're really excited. This patch is very big. We have crazy large notes. This is really cool. We're going to do this specifically, and we're going to do it. And I feel like they're not giving themselves enough room to allow for the chaotic process of actually developing the game where things change constantly. And they're just kind of like letting it's the same thing that happened with Hello Games and No Man's Sky. They're letting their excitement pour out of them and make promises and be too specific on things that they probably can't actually be specific on, and it just ends up hitting them right in the face.
I had spent considerable time in the end game. Majority of my clan had spent considerable time in the end game. None of us got an invite. The guys that we power leveled for like...
Okay, so he's just bitter about not getting an invite when everybody else did for the beta.
A day, 2 hours, if that, they got an invite. Now, there were some exceptions. My buddy Eros, he got an invite, and we got to see it. He streamed it in Discord. Little hush hush. There were levels that were incomplete in November. 7 years of development. So there was a bunch of kind of weird shit going on right there that already felt.
Yeah.
But Stockholm Syndrome, right? We pushed it aside, said, let's just give it a chance. That's all I ever championed was give it a chance on launch. Give it a chance.
Oh, God.
Well, then they started building the hype about how different the game was going to be and how badass it was going to be.
Every part of Sanctuary is fulfilling and satisfying.
Really wanted to create variety for people to be able to spend time where they wanted to in the world.
In the Eternal
Again, over-promising, showing their excitement, and not... I feel like if there was PR oversight in the marketing for Diablo 4, I feel like whoever was responsible for overseeing that needs to I hope they got reprimanded in some way, or that easily went over review, because it just reeks of too much innocence in how it's being broadcasted and trying to tell us how we're going to feel before we experience it, rather than just kind of giving us the facts of what it is.
eternal conflict between the high heavens and the burning hells, Diablo 4 offers you more choice than ever before.
We want players to play their own way and have their own choices.
Adam Jackson has been stepping up to the plate a lot, publicly and behind the scenes too. So it seems that he's worthy of commendation for
how
sure.
they're going to build their character.
Between all of our different systems, you can really create a custom character in ways that was not available in previous Diablo titles.
Never seen it before. You've never played in anything like this ever before in any Diablo series. Well, except Diablo Immortal. They had all the custom character creation things in Diablo Immortal. They just knew that hardcore Diablo fans didn't play Diablo Immortal because it was pay to win. So they could easily lie to us about that and we wouldn't figure it out. You know what else is kind of scammy? When you charge $70 to $100 for a game and you release it with half the content in the free game. So yeah, Diablo Immortal, guess what, y'all? They've got a gem tab for free.
I don't know if you can directly compare them together. I think an amount of content for sure makes a lot of sense. And I think that is a very valid argument to say that Diablo 4 launched with less content than it definitely need. And it still doesn't have enough content, even with Season 2 coming out, Season of Blood, adding the endgame. You know, I think that if you had bought Diablo 4 as like a single player RPG, not an ARPG, that you just picked it up and you played it until you beat Lilith and then you logged off and it was like a $20 thing, you would have loved it. I think the problem is that there's not much following after that. It's like New World Syndrome when it came out. There just wasn't enough going on, and there still isn't enough going on. But I don't know if it's a fair comparison to say that they're just very different games.
They've got belts and shoulders and different gear. Oh, free. We don't have that. You know what else they got? Raids.
What?
Oh, free. Clan battles. Oh, free.
That is true.
Yeah. 12-player parties in raids. Yeah, did I say raids? Yeah, raids.
This is a very, very valid point. This is actually probably one of the best points he's made so far. The idea that you have a purchase title, premium purchase title from a company that makes exclusively online multiplayer games and is making the fourth installment of an IP they have been making and releasing since the 90s. And they don't have barely any social features, no group finder, no real group activities, no ways to bring people together, and barely any trading or interactions between players at all. That is a huge L for Blizzard on Diablo 4, and he's absolutely right.
Free. It was all available on launch.
All that stuff.
All the
needed
white
to
knights
exist
like to
ahead
come
of
in and
time.
say,
like, if you get an indie company that just releases a new game, right, and they're missing this stuff, like Dark and Darker, right, a company that it's their first game, they're trying to, you know, pay the bills and keep the lights on and manage all their software fees and their electricity bills, and they're trying to get the game going. Sure, if that's missing, you know, commonly accepted social features in games you would expect in multiplayer, then absolutely you kind of give them the benefit of the doubt and you let them roll. But the idea that there wasn't enough inherent knowledge inside of Activision Blizzard to go around to help people get this stuff is kind of ridiculous, right? Even if you could say that, what if we came in and we wiped the entirety of all the knowledge that existed inside of Blizzard as developers, like all the core developers left, all the people with experience left, all you have is associates and, you know, entry-level people. Still, they have the bankroll to be able to hire people with that experience to be able to say that these features need to exist and it's expected of us, especially after having waited so long for this title, right? I feel like what they gave us for Diablo 4 launch, they should have just, it would have been much better received if it was called a new IP, right? If it was a new IP for them in the ARP genre, but not Diablo 4. It certainly wasn't Diablo 4.
oh, none of that was available on launch. Well, if you do just a little tiny bit of research, takes about 2 seconds to go to Google and research, you'll see that it was all available, except for the Blood Knight. It just came out. But yeah, Diablo Immortal, about a year-old game, they get a new class. What does Diablo 4 get? Nothing. We paid money. They didn't. And don't come in the comments, say cash grab, monetization, all that. We're not talking about it. We're talking about content.
I was going to say they probably paid a lot more money than all of us did collectively, just not individually.
Why it feels scammy. Not only that, but they had a big Diablo 4 campfire chat, push everybody into Diablo Immortal, and it worked per the investor relations report. So there you go. Scam. Remember this developer right here when he said, don't trust Blizzard?
I've seen this interview, and I think that there are some valid points here. I feel like this interview with this dev here is a little doomery. You know, someone who obviously did not exit with a positive perspective on the inner workings of the company. I mean, he kind of said that the company was dead and had no soul, which I think on the outside, you can certainly feel that. I mean, there's obviously hierarchical issues going on, and the right people are not being put in the right positions, or there's people in positions that are like I said, from the outside, what it seems to me for Diablo 4 is that there are just a lot of people that are stepping into positions that haven't done them before, and they're making rookie mistakes repeatedly and having to correct them. And that's what's going on with Diablo 4, right? They're not fixing problems before they become a problem, right? There's no risk management. They're not trying to proactively solve problems before they become a problem. They're solving them once they are a problem. And that's usually what you expect from people that are stepping into a role for the first time that haven't made those mistakes before.
Where Blizzard's a dead shell being puppeteered.
Blizzard is dead. It is a corpse.
Yeah.
It is a corpse being puppeteered by Activision and
that's quite doomery.
Bobby Kotick. And it's going to be used as basically a factory to put the Blizzard stamp on things and stoke nostalgia to get sales.
One of the big standouts.
I mean, to be fair, even if they were making great games, they would still do the same thing, right? Building on existing IPs is the bread and butter of our industry right now. That's why we have tons of remakes and remasters and redos and bringing back games that people already know, because those games have brand equity. You recognize them, right? That's why they're remaking all the old Resident Evils instead of making new ones as quickly. That's why they're remaking Beyond Good and Evil. That's why they're remaking Demon Souls. And then, you know, it's because people already like those games and they know that they're going to buy it again because it's updated and it's something they already like, which means the risk of low sales is lower than it would be for a brand new IP. So I think those things are there, but definitely. And by the way, I loved Dragonflight. And I think the first 50 hours of Diablo 4 were great. So there's some people there that are still doing good work, right?
Which is makes it look like a scam to me, was this beta sweepstakes church paint your face thing. Y'all remember that? Let's check that out.
What happened with this? Was there a scandal here? I actually did not follow up on this at all. It wasn't really for me. I don't know why the church would want demons painted on their walls. And that guy with his bulging eyes staring at you. That is doing this. The people that all do the work do all with the bad practices we see.
So this was a sweepstakes
I can see
that was released in March. I was highly interested in it because I wanted to get my face painted on the church. That never happened. They said anybody that played the beta between 24th and 26th and was opted in got to be entered into this sweepstakes. Well, I opted in and I was excited and I never heard nothing about it. Nobody did. I went and searched online to see if there was anything ever said about it, and there wasn't. If you look in the official rules, there's a website that will take you to the sweepstakes page section of Diablo 4. It no longer exists. It just redirects you back to the main page of Diablo 4. What's going on there, Willis? Was a little strange to me that we only got to play to level 20 on the server slam, but in the betas, we got to play to 25. Why couldn't we play to 50? What were y'all hiding? You know, good.
Now, the developer in me wants to say that there could be things that were unfinished or content they weren't ready to put into a shipping build that they didn't want people interacting with. And the primary focus of the server slam was to improve performance, which, by the way, they actually did. I would give them credit for that. The performance for the initial closed beta and open beta was pretty abysmal. And then going into the server slam, they did a fantastic job of riding that ship because there were almost no issues, more or less. People got connected. The queues weren't very long, if they even existed at all. So I think they did a great job in the server slam in creating that. So I think that's definitely there. But I feel like this is a little bit of a red herring in trying to say that they were hiding something from us. Because to be honest, like I said, I still think that, you know, finishing the campaign of Diablo 4 is still really good, and that's not where the problems for the game exist. And the problems for the game come from right after that.
Hiding. They was hiding this.
There was some blowback from religious types. Oh. Sweepstakes got shut down. Record quarter. MAUs. Wait, so the MAUs, if anyone know, there's DAUs and MAUs, daily and monthly active users, how many people log into the game for any amount of time and show up per month. And they're saying that Blizzard, I mean, they're pretty low here overall. Very hard to compare MAUs to King in general, but you know, it is kind of part of that. 2025 is pretty dang expensive for what they give, and a lot of the cosmetics in game are, I would argue, very underdone or undercooked. Won't do a patch like that every. So this is the this one was a huge one. This is what 1.1. This was, again, I think a lot of rookie mistakes happening back to back, and then have them having to recover after the fact because there's just not some experienced oversight that's saying we're going into this to fix. Rapidly lose players. Well, we're going to have it on Steam soon to see. Let's see where Diablo 4 is right now on Twitch. Diablo 4. Diablo? How far down do I have to go to see this? Let's see. Diablo 4, 3.4K. This was down to like 400. I think season 2 is bringing it back, but I also think that, you know, like, yeah, Rob and I think Rax and a couple other people are getting back into it and starting to theorycraft and stuff. So that's bringing it back to life, but definitely not what it was before. Campaign's not over until we kill Diablo. I don't know why, by the way, I don't know why Ibarra even bothered mentioning Diablo 5 when Diablo 4 was in the middle of a firestorm. That, I usually like the tact and manner that he has, but this is just so weird. It's such a weird thing to do. By the way, is this music safe? Is this music safe? No. YouTube audio. Okay, it is. Shoot the themselves in the foot was
Did y'all
one of their
happen to catch that
guidelines?
little graph I snuck in that montage? That's the big, well, it's not the big. There's two real big standouts, but it's one of the big standouts. That comes straight
They
from
talked about Diablo
Activision's
5, yeah.
quarter two investor relations report or whatever, shareholders report, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That is an active user count, monthly active users.
So this is Dragonflight. So you can see the Dragonflight actually had a pretty significant impact on, I mean, it's like 50%, right? A 50% increase in MAUs. Assuming this graph is right, like it doesn't, I don't see what the source of this is, if this is accurate, but if we assume that this is accurate in their total MAUs, then yeah, it seemed like they got like a pretty nice bump for Dragonflight. And then almost no bump for Diablo, which doesn't seem correct. This can't be possible, by the way. Given the fact that so many people were playing Diablo on launch, either this didn't include the initial Diablo cohort or these stats aren't correct. It actually is impossible for this to go down given the launch of Diablo unless every other game lost a large portion of their audience because many people were playing Diablo 4 on launch, and I don't see this as being possible.
Users, what it's called, it's a metric that they
Maybe it
use. It's an average of the 3 months together. It's an average that they use to report player numbers to the shareholders. It is buried deep in this report. It's all the way at the bottom. Those that say that Blizzard don't publish their numbers, they do, but it's just in the investor shareholder report. It's right here. Okay? What was really kind of WTF is going on here is that if you look at March 31st, you see the number is at 27. So that what that number represents, they don't tell you what the unit is, even though every other unit of measurement on this piece of paper is in millions. So I'm assuming this is in millions. But what this number is an average of January, February, March. They take each of those numbers individually, add them together, divide by 3. It's an average. That's what you get. Keep in mind that in quarter two, which is this June 30th number, Diablo 4 released and sold $666 million worth and had 10 million plus players that were pushed onto the platform. But the numbers are 26. So that means less players.
That can't be possible.
Even though you had 10 million influx in June, you still
for
reported
right now.
less players than you did in quarter one, and less players, almost half of the players that you had in quarter four, 2022. That's really confusing. I don't understand. That either means they had massive refunds and ain't saying anything, or
MAUs won't be affected by refunds.
they had a absolute huge exodus from all over the platform. I feel like that.
Okay, so this is what he's talking about here. This is their investor report from second quarter. And this might be like a projection to June. I don't know why they would put June 30th here. And I think these numbers are actually just before Diablo 4 came out. Because they talk a lot about 3 months ended June 30th. All increase. There's their EBITDA net income. Wow, Asia Pacific kind of low, huh? This is like all the European territories. This could be a report where like we might actually need the third quarter report to actually see this. This could actually have cut off because we got what, June 6th was the early access release of Diablo. It doesn't seem, unless, I mean, we're seeing this here for like Dragonflight, and they didn't really, like, they did Overwatch 2, which we know did really poorly. They're trying to restart Overwatch 1, which we know didn't, you know, it isn't really as impressive either. And I think in general, they're definitely struggling from that standpoint. But I have a feeling that for MAUs, this isn't actually including the bulk of the launch for Diablo 4.
That number should be higher, right? That should be about a 28.
And by the way, refunds wouldn't affect that. So MAUs, like monthly active users, if a person logs into your game at any point in the month, depends on what they do for people. Sometimes people measure MAUs differently, but if at any point you log in, like if you logged in and then refunded the game, you would still show up as a monthly active user until the next 28 or 30-day period that they would count on that. So
29, if my Georgia public school math serves me correctly.
He's right that this is strange, but I have a feeling that this actually got cut off before any of the launch numbers for Diablo 4 and everything following, considering how massive the launch for D4 was and how many people were playing it. And if you're just talking about MAUs, then this number would be significantly higher, unless somehow every other title lost far more active users than Diablo did, or all the active users from other games were the ones that came into Diablo, which also doesn't seem to be possible given everything. So I think this could just be where it got cut off.
Which you probably don't. But even if everybody
they delayed Overwatch
from
1,
the other games didn't log up
that
Catfish a little better, but
Overwatch 1,
they had a absolute huge exodus from all over the platform. I feel like that number should be higher, right? That should be about a 28, 29, if my Georgia public school math serves me correctly, which you probably don't. But even if
I would expect if it went from 31 to 45 for Dragonflight, I would expect this to probably go to maybe like a 50 or 55 or maybe higher for Diablo.
Everybody,
I feel like in general, Diablo 4 was a much bigger launch than Dragonflight.
From the other games didn't log on to their same games that they've been playing and just went to Diablo 4, that number should be linear. I don't know. I'm not a numbers guy, but that right there is kind of an obvious thing. Maybe if somebody smarter can explain it in the comment. Then we move on to the Diablo 4 credits, where there's over 9,000 names. You know what this reminds me of? One of these scams where they tell you, they just convince you all of this shit to make you believe
credit to everyone that was involved.
That this is really what you're buying, or it's really what they say it is, or whatever the case.
This sort of thing is good for internal positivity and kind of including, because there are a lot of, there's your immediate internal teams, your auxiliary teams, and then like your outsource names, and then you're like at your other houses that like marketing, and then there's like localization and people all over the world that change languages and bring it to different localities and cultures. And there's obviously outsourcing for art materials and other pieces, and then you have like your VO and your scoring and your OST, and like there's a lot of extended groups of people that really are involved, and going the extra mile to include everyone I think is a good thing. I also don't think that they should have tried to put a number on it and marketed it as like a, you know what I mean? Like they didn't need to have a number. I think they definitely, having this as like, hey, thank you to everyone who's involved and put the effort in to make the game what it is. Here's all the names of people that were involved in a very extended sense. But I don't think it should have been a marketing beat of like, hey, here's how many people put their hands on the game to make it.
Maybe.
I agree. That was a very odd
more that
choice.
They can put credibility behind something.
Which again, I think is very back to the idea that they're trying to like, it's almost like they're trying to tell us how good the game is without letting the game be good on its own. This is a huge patch. Had 9,000 people working on it. It's like never before. No one's ever seen Diablo like this. And I feel like that only works if the game over promise, right? Like under promise, over deliver is always the best way to do it. And I feel like they're working really hard to over promise and not as hard as they could be on trying to over deliver.
The better it is. So if I go to the Kentucky Derby,
Yeah.
and the number one
You'd be
horse takes a
surprised how
dump
many
on the
people work on a
ground,
game this big, especially if
And I
like
scoop
over
it
a
up.
long development period.
and I sell it as
Definitely.
just plain horse shit, no one's going to buy it. But if I dress it up and I put it in a pretty box and a pretty bag and a bow on it, people are going to start looking at it. I'm going to say certified grade A horse shit. And they're going to go, damn, okay, hell yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
then
think
if
this
I
is
say
fine.
it's from
It just shouldn't
runs
have been
around
used
the
to
track,
qualify the
Kentucky
game.
Derby winner, 10-time champion sired, 19-hand horse, 18-time Kentucky Derby winner, certified grade A horse shit, that was cultivated by 9,000 of the Kentucky Derby's finest jockeys. You understand the kind of bullshit that I'm just piling on behind this. That would be people that like Kentucky Derby. They'd be like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's qualification, right? Trying to qualify something is good, and it works for the vast majority of people, whether they're willing to admit it or not.
Well, it's the same thing.
Basic marketing
If
psychology.
you have some piece of shit and you just say it's a piece of shit, no one's going to buy it. But if you dress it up in this elaborate
What up, Slick?
costume and you put this big ass hype behind it and you get KFC and you get Megan Fox and you get everybody like my dumb ass out there just going hype rage, hype blind to the situation, telling everybody to chill out, let's wait till the game comes out, which I still think that is a fair thing to do before a game actually releases. I don't think it's fair to attack
To a certain degree. I think this is also a great topic, but to a certain degree, I think there should be room for healthy and active criticism, but there also should be a degree of wiggle room where you allow the final product to be able to impress you, right? Or to be able to come together. You shouldn't expect, especially in today's landscape of gaming, where most of the time, almost every game you buy or download on average is going to be underdeveloped, undercreated, underperforming, or undervalue for what you pay for it. I think it's fair to say that you should expect to have that criticism, but you should also not immediately say that something, I know for sure something's bad before you actually get to sit down and play it.
game before it actually comes out, and then we can have free for all. That's
There's room
just
for
me
both.
personally. But there's two names in the credits that stood out to me. I didn't dive real hard into it, but I got enough info to kind of get a
What were
bad
the
taste
names?
in my mouth, and so that was enough.
Bobby?
But we're gonna look at these two names here. The first one is lead dungeon designer Adam Levy. So if we pull up his LinkedIn, and I'm about 95% sure this is him. I did some research. I can't find anybody else that could potentially, be who this is.
It could not
I
be
believe
them.
this is
Hey,
him.
I went to UCSD too.
Blizzard's nowhere to be found on his LinkedIn at all. Nowhere.
It could just be a different Adam Levy.
Did he sign an NDA with them to develop some shit behind the scenes and they didn't want anybody
yeah.
knowing? Or
It could just be a different person.
I don't understand this. Now, it could very well be that I'm on the wrong page, but I doubt it. Maybe y'all can correct me in the comments. I'm sure y'all will. That was a little suspicious. So that led me into the next one that was real suspicious. Lead encounter designer, Jason Bentley.
Okay.
Now we go over to his LinkedIn, and on first look, no big deal. Works for Blizzard, la la la. Well, if you scroll down to his job before Blizzard, you see Vicarious Visions.
Okay.
What's the big deal, Hog? Well, look what he worked.
Senior designer, tech and combatants, senior technical designer, Destiny 2, prototyping, paper prototyping, UE4, UE4. I mean, they have a proprietary engine at Blizzard anyways. Project management, contract negotiations since 2012. So 4 years experience there. Senior technical designer, 2 years. Senior gameplay designer for 2 years. I mean, if he's an encounter designer with experience in combatants and things like that, then I don't see the problem here.
Worked on for Vicarious Visions. Diablo 4 World Encounter Boss.
2019 to 2021. So the Wandering Death is something they've had in the game for a long time, I guess.
Why is that not worked on at Blizzard? That's outsourced to Vicarious Visions? So it's starting to make me think that a lot of this game was outsourced, and that's why we can't get immediate results and immediate fixes and all kind of stuff because they're having to rely on outsource partners to fix it.
I mean, that's conjecture.
I don't know. Maybe that's tinfoil hat. Maybe not. It's just the feeling that I'm getting. And then, I'm forgetting the big kicker. How could I forget the fake ass developer video? But I got news for y'all. It ain't the only one. There's 2 more before it. We just missed them. And they both are faking it. None of their controllers are on in any of the 3 videos. None of the button mashing matches up.
Yeah, Blizzard Albany, the Vicarious Visions is a subsidiary of Blizzard, has been for a long time. And they started in 91 as Blizzard Albany for New York. And then Activision bought them in 2005. They were part of the sister company, Blizzard. Oh, and then they moved over and did a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, it's hard to know the inner workings.
Up with any of the 3 videos. I mean, in the last one that we saw with the 2 ladies.
This is a great point, by the way, because I think that I feel like it's also part PR and marketing for them. I feel like they're just, it almost feels like in some way they're trying to just fill the boxes and do the things that make them look like it's like a person who's just trying to do their job and make it look like they're doing their job to their boss, and less about that they're trying to make it look good to the fan base or the viewer base or the players, right? It's like, I feel like they're putting these people up to be roasted without understanding why that is the case, right? Like a lot of these dev interviews and dev plays and all of these things are just, they're just putting people up to be roasted, and they should know that that's the case.
Which, just a little disclaimer, I feel like
we've been to be fair, by the way, if you've never worked on a game, if there are plenty of roles in game development where the person is not going to be an avid gamer and they're not going to be someone who excels at playing that game, but they may also be a fantastic developer. And I think it's not only ignorant, but unrealistic to expect that any developer in any sense that works on a game or helps promote a game can sit down in a public forum with people watching and do exceptionally well and know everything about the game.
A little harsh on Miss Denny there. Like, y'all, I went back and looked at her qualifications. That lady's a badass. We have to give her, like, I like being fair to folks. We need to be fair to Miss Denny. She worked for Obsidian since 2004. She worked on Fallout New Vegas. She worked on all of the expansions. She worked on Outer Worlds, a bunch of other badass games. I went and creeped her on LinkedIn. She is qualified to do the job. So I was wrong about, saying that she wasn't a dev. Obviously she has a really, really nice resume. And I just wanted to throw that in there, but we did see that they weren't playing either. Their eyes aren't tracking. When you play a video game and your eyes are looking at stuff on the screen, your eyes will move. Your eyes ain't gonna be zombie style, just staring straight ahead like that.
I mean, the base distance for a console is 10 feet between you and the TV, right? And if you are on a fixed camera position on a character in the middle of the screen, and you're also someone who doesn't play a lot of games, it's very possible that all you're doing is staring at your character and avoiding attacks and stuff like that. But yeah.
So it's really hard for someone like me to not see it as a scam.
Like, I've had environment artists that they ask to be in playtests that don't normally play, and they get their butt kicked, especially if there's people in the playtest that are insanely good, right? Like if there's, we have esports teams coming in to play or talk about the game and stuff like that. They're going to get their butt kicked, or they don't normally play games like that, right? Like they play like a lot of Zelda and you ask them to play RTS or, it's just, I don't know.
See, because I've been fucked up.
I feel like we wouldn't be having this conversation if Diablo 4 was very good. I feel like it's more like it's correlation, not causation. And I think it's unfair to the people playing the game that it's like, wow, these devs, this is the problem. The devs never played their game and that's why it sucks. And I know this because these specific people that they found that they had free time in their schedule to sit on a couch in front of a camera and play the game so they could be roasted online.
Over a lot in my life.
Aren't playing
I'm not
as well
one of
as
these
I hoped.
guys that one of my cousins told me one time, always see the good in people. Well, when you've been somebody that's had a knife stabbed in your back most of your life, because you used to see the good in folks all the time, that's really hard to do anymore. So I know that's kind of a cynical outlook on life, but it's just my life experience. I've been burned a bunch of times, so I'm a little bit more cautious. and I like to look a little deeper past the surface because there are dishonest people out there. And majority of companies, they don't give a shit.
Thanks.
We don't give a shit!
Oh my God, Blizzard said that?
Starting to feel a little better.
I can't believe Blizzard said that on
but
stage.
I said, we don't give a shit!
They really don't give a shit about you or me or what's going on or anything about our money or what we would have sacrificed. Now, I thought it was funny when Quinn had said, like, it's just money. You know, you could tell rich streamer privilege or whatever, you know, whatever you want to call that. It was really off-putting, actually, like, it's just money, like, go get. No, well, to people that are really poor, especially in my area of the country, y'all should come here where I live. People have tarps on the side of their house. Like, if something happens and a tree comes through their house, they ain't got money to fix that. They put a fucking tarp up. So you never know what somebody's sacrificing to buy this game to have fun. And when you don't deliver on what you promised to, those people feel scammed. And especially people that are diehards of this genre or this franchise, where all they wanted to do was play another Diablo game for 5 or 6, 8, 10, 12 years. This didn't deliver. And then you see them talking about Diablo 5 won't take as long to develop.
This was the dumb. I don't know. I don't understand.
We ain't even got a complete Diablo 4. This ain't Diablo 4. This is Lilith 1. Stop calling it Diablo 4. I want to start a petition to rename it Lilith 1. But you add all those feelings up together, and it directly correlates with how these people are getting scammed on Catfished. And it may be a stretch. We may have just gotten catfished by this Lilith bitch that everybody said, hail the Blessed Mother, and I tried to warn everybody, it's a demon woman, don't trust her, you're going to have to fight her. There's not going to be Diablo, hell, there's barely Mephisto.
I can fix her.
I don't know. They release seasons that are half-assed. She's
just misunderstood.
The season battle pass and say you don't have to spend your token, but then they default it to the redeem token and then don't put a warning screen up, so you just default take it. That's a scam.
I don't think that's a scam. I think this is a classic case of people mislabeling malevolence when it's really just incompetence. I don't think the non-confirmation for spending your season token was something that was malevolent. It was intended to take away your token and make you play the battle pass. I think it was just straight incompetence. I think that the people that needed to review that didn't review it, or if they did, they weren't qualified to review it, and they didn't actually put the time and effort they needed to make sure that things like that existed in the UI UX experience and when it shipped. Or the people that were signing off on final builds and stuff like that didn't care to look there, or when they did, they didn't know what they were looking for. I personally, from my personal view, I do not think that that was something scammy or malevolent. I think they just screwed up.
They don't want you to hold on to that token. They want you to spend it. Then they don't give you enough earned coins in the battle pass progression to buy another one. That's a scam. It's
that was Mobile Game 101, only ask for confirmation once, never again. I mean, that kind of, it's called a dark pattern, but that kind of thing is real, but I don't get the sense that it was intended in this case. I think they just didn't have it.
Scam, y'all. It's a money scam. And we continue
when they
to feed
definitely
into
should
it.
have. And they should have refunded people.
Let me know what you think in the comments below, good or bad. Hit like and subscribe if you like my content.
Nice. There was a mixture of things here. Overall. PTSD, I think, is a bit much. There's some good messages here in general, but go check them out. This is Hawg, H-A-W-G. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.